powerful attack was sent your way, but something unexpected happened. You felt it, didn't you? That sudden heaviness, that strange shift in your energy, the unexplained delays, the confusion, the pressure that seemed to come out of nowhere. It wasn't random. It wasn't just a bad day. And deep down, you knew something wasn't right. This is not a coincidence. There are moments in life when the spiritual realm moves in ways we can't physically see, but we can feel it. And what you experienced was not ordinary. Someone somewhere released something against you, a plan, an intention, a force meant to weaken you, distract you, maybe even destroy your purpose. But here's what they didn't count on. God was already ahead of them. You see, when you are chosen, when your life carries purpose, when your soul is aligned with something greater, attacks don't come without reason. The enemy doesn't waste time on those who aren't a threat. And you are a threat to darkness. That's why it came suddenly. That's why it felt intense. That's why it tried to shake you at your core. But instead of breaking you, something unusual happened. You're still here. Not only that, you're stronger, wiser, more aware. And that's where the mystery begins. Because what was meant to harm you didn't land the way it was supposed to. It didn't take root. It didn't consume you. In fact, it seems like it reversed. Like something intercepted it before it could even touch your spirit. This is not a coincidence. God protected you. Even in moments where you felt alone, you were covered. Even when confusion surrounded you, there was a shield you couldn't see. Even when it felt like everything was falling apart, something divine was holding everything together behind the scenes. Think about it. There were signs. The sudden urge to step back from certain people, the instincts to stay quiet when you could have reacted, the unexplained feeling to pray, to pause, to protect your energy. That wasn't just you. That was divine intervention. Because when something negative is sent toward a chosen one, heaven doesn't stay silent. It responds. And sometimes it doesn't just block the attack. It sends it back. That's what makes this moment so powerful. Because while someone believed they had control, while they thought their plan would succeed, they failed to understand one thing. You are not unguarded. You are not vulnerable in the way they assumed. You are watched over, guided, protected in ways that defy logic. And now, things are shifting. You may have noticed it already. A strange calm after the chaos. A clarity that wasn't there before. Doors opening where there were once walls. Strength rising where there was once doubt. That's not random. That's the result of something breaking. But not you. Something that was sent against you has collapsed. It didn't survive the protection surrounding your life. It couldn't penetrate what God has placed over you. And now, the energy is changing direction. Because what happens when something meant for harm doesn't find its target? It doesn't just disappear, it returns. And this is where it gets deeper. Because the same force that was meant to bring you down is now revealing truths, exposing intentions, shifting outcomes in ways no one expected. You're beginning to see people differently, situations more clearly. You're noticing things you couldn't see before. That's not by accident, that's revelation. God didn't just protect you, He showed you. And what you're about to understand next will change the way you see everything that's been happening around you, because the story isn't over, not even close. What they didn't realize is, what was about to happen next would shock them completely. Someone tried to work against you in silence, but the spiritual realm saw everything. Not every battle announces itself with noise. Some of the most intense warfare happens in quiet spaces, behind closed doors, within thoughts, intentions, and unseen realms. And what was sent toward you didn't come with a warning. It came disguised, subtle, hidden, designed to move in silence so you wouldn't notice until it was too late. But you were never alone in this. While someone operated in secrecy, heaven was watching in full clarity. Every intention, every hidden motive, every ounce of envy or negativity, it was all seen. Nothing slipped through, nothing went unnoticed. This is not a coincidence. There are people who smile in your presence, but carry something entirely different in their hearts. Not always openly, not always loudly, but quietly. A silent resistance to your growth, a discomfort with your light, an unspoken tension. When they see you rising, evolving, stepping into something greater, and sometimes that energy doesn't just stay as a feeling. It gets sent, not always in ways you can explain physically, but spiritually, through thoughts, through intentions, through focused negativity, a desire to see you confused, delayed, drained, a quiet hope that you would lose your clarity, your direction, your peace, and for a moment, it may have felt like it was working. You may have experienced that sudden wave of doubt, that unexplained fatigue, that emotional heaviness that didn't seem to belong to you. The kind of pressure that makes you question everything, even yourself. But here's where everything shifts. Because while something was being sent toward you, something greater was already surrounding you. God protected you, not in a loud, obvious way, but in a precise, calculated, divine way. Every attempt to reach you was filtered. Every negative force was met with resistance. Every hidden plan ran into a wall that couldn't be broken. You were covered, even when you didn't realize it, and that's the part they didn't understand. They thought silence meant success. They thought because you didn't react, didn't speak, didn't confront, that their influence was taking hold. But what they couldn't see was the battle they were losing in the spiritual realm. Because when you are chosen, your life is not left exposed. There is a covering over you that doesn't depend on human awareness. A protection that activates without your permission. A presence that stands between you and anything meant to harm you. And when something tries to cross that boundary, it doesn't pass through untouched. It gets intercepted. This is why things didn't unfold the way they expected. This is why their intentions didn't fully land. This is why, instead of collapsing, you began to shift, to awaken, to see more clearly. Because what was sent against you didn't just fail. It revealed itself. You started noticing inconsistencies, energy that didn't feel right, conversations that carried a different weight. You became more aware, more discerning, more aligned with something deeper than surface-level reality. That wasn't by accident. That was protection, turning into revelation. Because God doesn't just block what's meant to harm you. He exposes it. He brings it into light, piece by piece. So you're no longer walking unaware, so you can move differently. so you can guard your energy, your space, your purpose. And now, you're not the same as before. There's a strength in you that wasn't there, a calm that doesn't shake easily, a clarity that cuts through confusion. You're not reacting the same way. You're not engaging the same way. You've shifted into something more grounded, more protected, more aware. And that shift is powerful, because the moment you become aware, the dynamic changes. What once moved in silence can no longer hide. What once operated in shadows begins to lose its power. And the very thing that was meant to weaken you starts to lose direction, because it can't attach to you the way it was intended. It can't settle where it doesn't belong. It can't stay where God has already claimed territory. So now, something else begins to happen. A reversal, a redirection, a shift in energy that no one expected, especially not the one who initiated it. Because when something is sent with the wrong intention, and it finds no place to land, it doesn't just vanish, it turns. And this is where everything changes, because the same silence they used to work against you is now working against them. The same unseen realm they thought they could manipulate has already made its judgment, and what was meant to be your downfall is no longer moving toward you. It's moving somewhere else. But what happened next turned everything against them. The moment they tried to harm you, they activated something they didn't understand. What they thought was a simple act, a quiet intention, a hidden move behind the scenes, was actually a trigger, not for your downfall, but for your protection to rise in a way they had never seen before. Because when something is sent toward a life that is covered, chosen, and aligned with God's purpose, it doesn't just meet resistance. It activates response, and that response is not human. It doesn't operate on emotion, revenge, or impulse. It operates on divine order, on a level far beyond anything they could calculate or control. You see, they assumed you were like everyone else, vulnerable, exposed, easy to influence. They believed that what works on others would work on you. That pressure would break you. That confusion would weaken you. That silence would isolate you. But they misjudged who you are, because chosen ones carry something unseen, a protection that doesn't come from effort, but from alignment, a covering that isn't built overnight, but assigned long before the attack ever formed. And when that covering is challenged, it doesn't crack, it responds. That's why things didn't go as planned. That's why the energy they released didn't settle into your life the way they expected. That's why, instead of spiraling, you began to stabilize. Instead of losing direction, you started gaining clarity. Because what was meant to harm you encountered something unmovable. God protected you, not just by blocking the attack, but by transforming it. This is where it becomes deeper than most people realize. Because in the spiritual realm, nothing is wasted. Energy, intention, movement, everything has direction. And when something is sent with the wrong purpose towards someone under divine protection, it doesn't disappear. It gets redirected. That's the part they didn't understand. They thought they were sending something outward toward you, but what they were really doing was setting a process in motion, a process that would not obey them, a process that would not stop midway, a process that would follow its course until it returned to its source, and now, the same force they released is no longer under their control. You may not have seen it happen. You may not have heard anything change. But in the unseen, a shift took place the moment that intention left them. Because heaven recognized it instantly, and when heaven responds, it doesn't negotiate. It establishes balance. That's why your life didn't collapse. That's why your spirit didn't break. That's why, even in moments of pressure, something within you remained steady. You were held in place while everything around you tried to move you out of position. That wasn't luck. That was divine intervention. And now, the effect of that intervention is becoming visible. You're noticing a separation, a distance forming between you and certain energies, certain people, certain situations. Things that once felt close now feel unfamiliar. What once had influence now feels powerless. That's not you changing randomly. That's protection, creating boundaries. Because once an attack is revealed, it cannot continue the same way. Once something is exposed in the spiritual realm, its access is limited. And once God steps in, the outcome is no longer uncertain. This is why you're still standing. This is why your clarity is returning. This is why your strength is growing in places where you once felt weak. Because the very thing meant to disrupt you has now strengthened you. It forced a shift. It awakened awareness. It aligned you more deeply with something greater than what you can see, and that alignment is where your true protection lies. Not in reacting, not in fighting back the same way, but in standing within a space where nothing sent against you can remain. Because what is covered cannot be easily touched. What is chosen cannot be easily shaken. And what is protected by God cannot be destroyed by human intention. Now, the direction has changed. The movement has reversed. And what once seemed like a quiet, hidden act is now unfolding into something much larger than they ever expected. Because when divine order takes over, it doesn't stop at defense. It moves into correction. And this reversal was only the beginning of something even bigger. You were never alone. Even in your weakest moments, God was fighting for you. There were nights when you felt like you couldn't go any further. Moments when your strength ran low, when your thoughts were heavy, when your heart carried a weight you couldn't explain. It felt quiet, almost too quiet, like everything around you had slowed down while something inside you was being tested. But even then, you were not abandoned. Even in the silence, something was moving on your behalf. While you were trying to understand what was happening, God was already handling what you couldn't see. Every tear, every moment of confusion, every feeling of being overwhelmed, it was all witnessed. None of it was ignored. None of it was wasted. This is not a coincidence. Because what you went through wasn't just about survival. It was about preparation. There are seasons in life that don't make sense while you're in them. Seasons where things fall apart, where people change, where doors close without warning. It can feel like loss. It can feel like delay. It can even feel like punishment. But in reality, it's positioning. God was allowing certain things to shift around you, so something deeper could be built within you. Strength that doesn't break under pressure. Discernment that sees beyond appearances. Faith that doesn't depend on circumstances. You weren't being weakened. You were being trained. Every challenge you faced carried a purpose. Every setback was shaping your perspective. Every moment of discomfort was stretching your capacity to handle what's ahead. Because where you're going requires a version of you that couldn't exist without those experiences. That's why the pressure was intense. That's why it felt personal. Because it was targeting your growth. But here's the truth. It didn't understand. And maybe you didn't fully see at the time either. God never removed his hand from your life. Even when things didn't go your way, he was guiding the outcome. Even when you felt uncertain, he was directing your steps. Even when it seemed like you were losing control, he was establishing something far more stable than what you thought you needed. You were protected, even when it didn't feel like it. And now, when you look back, you can start to see it. The situations that didn't work out the way you wanted actually protected you from something you couldn't see yet. The people who walked away made space for something more aligned. The delays that frustrated you kept you from moving too soon. Nothing was random. Everything was intentional. Because God doesn't allow struggle without purpose. He doesn't let you walk through fire without refining something valuable within you. And he doesn't bring you through difficult seasons just to leave you where you started. You're not the same person anymore. There's a depth in you now, a calm strength, a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. You see things differently. You feel things differently. You respond differently. That didn't come from comfort. That came from what you survived. And that's where the power is. Because the same moments that tried to break you actually built you. The same experiences that felt like setbacks were setting you up for something greater. The same challenges that made you question everything were leading you closer to understanding your purpose. God wasn't just protecting you from harm. He was preparing you for impact. There is something ahead of you that requires clarity, strength, and faith on a level you didn't have before. And everything you went through was developing exactly that. That's why you couldn't skip the process. That's why it had to happen the way it did. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't be ready. And now, you are closer than you think. Closer to understanding. Closer to stepping into something new. Closer to seeing why everything unfolded the way it did. The confusion is clearing. The weight is lifting. The direction is becoming more visible. You're not lost. You're being led. And what's ahead is not random. It's connected to everything you've already walked through. Every lesson, every test, every moment of growth, it's all coming together. Because nothing in your journey has been wasted. Not the pain, not the waiting, not the uncertainty. All of it had a purpose. Because what is coming next in your life will reveal why all of this had to happen. They thought they were ending your story, but God was just beginning your victory. What felt like an ending was never the end. It only looked that way from where you were standing. The pressure, the confusion, the heaviness, it all created the illusion that something was being taken from you, that you were losing ground, that your story was being interrupted. But in reality, it was being rewritten. Every moment you thought you were falling apart, God was putting something together. Every time you felt pushed back, you were actually being repositioned, and every attempt that was made to weaken you only revealed how protected you truly are. This is not a coincidence, because the attack that was meant to stop you didn't just fail, it backfired. It awakened something inside you that could not have been activated any other way. A strength you didn't know you had, a clarity you didn't know you needed, a connection with God that became deeper, stronger, and unshakable. What they intended for harm became your transformation. And now, when you look at yourself, you can see it. You're not the same person who first felt that pressure. You don't think the same, you don't react the same, you don't allow the same energy into your space. There's a difference in you. Something refined, something grounded, something powerful. That didn't happen by chance. That happened because you went through the fire and came out stronger. The attack didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It revealed your resilience, your faith, your ability to stand even when everything around you felt unstable. And most importantly, it revealed that your life is not controlled by what others send your way, but by what God has already declared over you. You were never at the mercy of their intentions. You were always under divine protection. And now, that protection has shifted into something even greater. It's no longer just about shielding you. It's about elevating you. Because once an attack fails against someone who is chosen, it doesn't leave things the same. It changes the direction. It accelerates the purpose. It pushes you forward into a space you might not have reached without that resistance. What tried to hold you back actually moved you ahead. What tried to confuse you brought you clarity. What tried to weaken you made you unbreakable. And the ones who thought they had control are now witnessing something they can't explain, because they expected silence, but instead there is growth. They expected collapse, but instead there is stability. They expected an ending, but instead there is a beginning, and that beginning is powerful. It's a new chapter, where you walk with awareness, where you move with purpose, where you understand that not everything that comes against you is meant to stop you. Some things are meant to reveal who you truly are. And now you know that you are covered. You know that you are guided. You know that no matter what is sent your way, it cannot override what God has placed over your life. That kind of understanding changes everything. It removes fear. It builds confidence. It anchors you in something that cannot be shaken by outside forces. And this is just the start. Because what God is doing in your life right now is bigger than what you've already seen. The strength you've gained, the lessons you've learned, the clarity you now carry, it's all preparing you for what's next, something greater, something higher, something that will make everything you went through make complete sense. So if this message resonates with you, if you feel in your spirit that this was meant for you, take a moment right now. Comment Amen to declare your protection and your victory. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next in your journey. Like and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. because they might be going through a battle they don't fully understand yet. You are not alone. You are not unprotected, and you are definitely not defeated. A chosen one is never defeated, only elevated.